they are diminished and not given power. They're not given great positions of power. The other thing that happens is if you're a member, let's say, of the Democratic Party, to even get a decent committee assignment, in other words, if you're on anything other than the post office committee, which has no power and it has to be done, but there it is. You've got to raise and give to the Pelosi and the Democratic Campaign Fund. You got to raise $250,000 every 2 years. You got to fund your own race, but you got to raise at least $250,000. If you want a chairmanship or something of,
you got to buy it.
Member, a couple of million.
It's not free. You got to buy it.
You got to buy it, and it doesn't matter how smart you are. It doesn't matter how long you've been there.
Oh no.
Doesn't matter. You got to buy it. What happened is after 1974, both parties shifted away from seniority and merit. It's good if you have merit, but it is not essential.
That's sad, to think about it. I remember a conversation that we had a couple years ago where you told me at one point that Washington used to be a city of ideas. Now it's all about money. It
is. At the moment that we shifted and allowed the political action committees, that happened in '74. It was after the Watergate scandals, with the campaign reform permitting tax. Then it became a race to raise money, and in doing that, what happened is you wind up money from Wisconsin will come into a race in Florida, or money from the state of Washington will come into a race in Kentucky. And it just broke down the sense of civility and comity between senators and members of the House. And basically it made them tribal. You have a Republican tribe and a Democratic tribe. Inside the Republican Party, you have the traditional Democrats, and now you have the progressive, ultra-liberal Bernie Democrats in the House.
Feel the burn.
On the Republicans. That's right. You have the key parties, the Freedom Caucus, the moderates, etc., who are as much at war with each other as they are with the president or the other parties.
Oh, yeah, inner turmoil. That's right.
It is chaos. It is chaos.
Even in with Nancy Pelosi, you saw her out there a night ago, where you get the alt left that's shouting around for DACA. They're all upset because she's trying to negotiate with the president.
You just want to say to those young people, the DACA kids, your only hope of getting legislation is going to be with Pelosi and Schumer being able to cut a deal with the Republicans. If you don't do that, you better get ready to pack your suitcase.
That's right. That's right. They're picking a fight with somebody that's trying to really help them.
Oh, it's like you're getting robbed and you attack the cop that's trying to protect you.
Yeah, I almost felt bad for Pelosi.
Oh, it was. You just want to say with the Pelosi, what you've got to say to her is, you just got to, if you really believe in it, you just got to accept ingratitude and go on with it.
Yeah, but you know what? It's kind of revealing, because what they're shouting now, it's kind of interesting. A lot of these folks that are standing up for DACA, or folks that were the Dreamers, are saying that the Democratic Party's for deportation. The Democratic Party has been for deportation for many years. It's not a new idea.
No, I mean, Barack Obama has deported far more people than I think Trump ever will.
You bet.
Obama had a massive program of deportation.
Rounding them up like crazy. But see, the difference between Obama and Donald Trump is that no matter what Obama did. He had, the chips in Vegas and the Wall Street money and just all the corrupt anything he said. What we're going to do is we're going to protect the borders. People are like, okay, that makes sense. But Donald Trump says it, and then he doesn't like any Spanish-speaking folks because he wanted to secure the border there with Mexico. That must mean that he hates all minorities. I mean, it's just so interesting to hear how it's spun and how people actually fall for that hook, line, and sinker.
Well, that's why so many people, that's why only half the people vote. Half the people that are eligible to vote. They're just disgusted by it. I'm disgusted by it. But, you got to vote. You got to pay attention.
That's it.
I get up every morning, and I spend 1 to 2 hours on the net looking at both real news and fake news. And to looking at the left and the right. You got to look at both sides.
Both sides, that's right.
This is very much of an American tradition. In the 19th century and in the first part of the 20th century, most towns would have a couple of morning newspapers. They'd have a couple of evening newspapers. And those newspapers would be ideologically different. They would have different views. So if you really wanted to learn what was happening, what you had to do is take both sets of papers. That's how you got your information.
That's right.
And you got some balance of it. And we had people who were much better informed than they are now.
They took the time.
They took the time. And what they get now is unfiltered information.
Google,
in the Lincoln Douglas,
AOL.
Yeah, exactly. Facebook, Twitter. Back during the Lincoln Douglas debates, what you had just had for about 15 years the invention of the telegraph and Associated Press. And so literally in the Lincoln Douglas debates, major issue, the Associated Press took down the entire debates. And you would wind up most of newspapers publishing the full debates, both sides. It went instantly across the country to most of the papers, and you wound up with people literally reading the whole debate. It's hard to believe, but it's true. I mean, you can read James McPherson's Battle Cry for Freedom. The U.S. had a literacy rate overall of 90+%.
Wow.
And you had people, most had 5th, 6th, 7th degree. Most had learned to read by reading the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had a religious country.
Yeah.
And you had a people that were literate, and they wanted to know what was going on. They read the Lincoln Douglas debates.
Yes,
North
they did.
And South.
Transcripts, everything.
The whole thing.
You couldn't pull over the wool over Americans' eyes, but now they just take the talking points because they're either working 2 jobs, as you know, they're just trying to survive, raising their kids, whatever they're doing, or they're just taking the AOLs or Googles because, we know what they do and where they're getting their source from, and they are biased. As much as they say they're trying to change things over at Google, they're really not.
No, I mean, a bias builds in. That's why I take that hour or 2 hours every day to read a lot of different sources, and on often the same story.
Sometimes the New York Times gets it right. Sometimes the Washington Post gets it right. Not always, but occasionally it's a good story, and you say, finally, for whatever reason, the editorial staff said, all right, just let's roll with it, and then you actually learn something, and they printed non-fake news. But unfortunately, it's more often than not, a lot of the stuff is skewed. That's
right. So basically, just ignore their editorials, okay?
That's right.
Go and read the factual accounts, and then read the Wall Street Journal or read some other accounts of it. And basically, it's like trying to bring you're taking a photo and you can't quite get it into focus. With this, to get a focus, you got to get, several different stories and then, make up your own mind.
Yeah, that's why I have to comb a lot of places, to try to get that perspective, because you have to know what the left's doing. You understand what the challenges are on the right, and what the independents are thinking and so forth and so on, because you want to be fair.
And that's a useful role that talk radio and shows such as yours provide. You will have a perspective, you'll do it, and you get challenged.
That's
You'll
right.
have people call in, they'll challenge you. You have to defend that. That is a useful function. Challenged news or challenged opinions. That's something you do not get with television, and you don't get with the newspapers. It's a one-way communication.
That's it. It's not fair. It's it can't biased, and then you got advertisers, so you can't just say what you want to say. Because you got producer in your ear saying, "Don't go that direction," and here are the questions to ask. Do not ask that question. That's why I like this show, for the people, listener supported, and it's supported by the people. And I like that premise better. It seems like it's more.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it very much.
it works.
I grew up on a farm, and what we would have with our cotton gins. This was in central Texas, Waxahachie, in that area. We would have co-op gins, and so all the farmers would own the gin. And so this is really a talk radio like for the people. It's like a co-op radio station.
It is. Nice way of looking at it.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's call it for what it is. Co-op.
Yeah, co-op radio.
Yeah. By the way, small number, people ask, why aren't you raising more money? I had a guy from Massachusetts I was talking to during the break, and I'm like, $5,000 for Sharathon. He goes, why don't you raise like $25,000? And I said, we're not greedy. I don't take a salary. And if I was, that's what I would do. We only raise what we need.
Yeah, it is true public service radio.
That's it. We're not greedy. I mean, the rent's not paid by the money that comes in. I have a secondary business, and thank God for that. I've put some savings in, my life savings, into building the studio, and had some help from our listeners. But it's really a neat endeavor, and this is it was easier back in the 90s when there was less media consolidation, but now more of a labor of love, and I think needed more than ever, where you see this polarization, where you see the alt-left. You talk about the alt-right, because it exists, but the alt-left is very dangerous. You got to have something that's balanced, and I know Fox coined fair and balanced. I don't know exactly how balanced it all is, depending on the show, because some of those reporters work for CNN, and you know what views they have. But,
Yeah, and some on Fox.
Some on Fox. Oh, yeah. Shepard Smith drives me crazy, because, that guy does not like the president at all.
Yeah, and so, they're bringing their own biases to it. Well, what you're doing is a great contribution, and it is not done to advance the interest of any oil company or internet company or bank, et cetera. It's honest.
Well, we want to keep it that way, and it's my heart that people hear the issues and then have their water cooler, have that discussion, meaningful, thoughtful conversation where we're not fighting, we're not destroying property. We're talking to each other, and that's just something that people don't do enough of, Pat, in this world of digital technology. People just don't get together at the coffee house these days as much.
There is no coffee house to get together.
Yeah. What's called Starbucks, but it's too noisy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
But, Pat, if you were going to give some advice, and I know people probably ask you this all the time, and with Donald Trump, with North Korea, that's a hot button issue. Some people say Nikki Haley is handling that better than Donald Trump. Do you think that Donald Trump is handling Kim Jong-un, who now he's nicknamed the Rocket Man? Is that good language to use?
No, I don't think so. I think he needs to. This morning, he just threatened to totally annihilate North Korea at
wow.
the UN. I think what he needs to do is basically squeeze the Russians and the Chinese. Just basically just simply say, we're being threatened. You are going to be eventually